The X-Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, REL-MAR McConnell Media Company, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
You doing that thing you do, breaking my heart into a million pieces, like you always do. And you don't mean to be.
And welcome to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to give us a call, our toll-free number is 1-877-528-8255. That's toll-free throughout the U.S., Canada, Alaska, and Hawaii at 1-877-528-8255. My email address, xzone@talkstarradio.com, on MSN Messenger, talkstarradio@hotmail.com, and our websites, www.xzoneradio.com and xzonetv.com. Today is Tuesday, November the 3rd in the year 2009, and I saw for the very first time this season a guy actually putting up Christmas tree lights on his deck today. And that kind of hit me in the wallet because I realized, oh no, within 8 weeks I've got to spend all this money. And you know, X-Zone Nation, how I am with money. If you think the Scotch are tight, I could teach them a few lessons. But welcome to the show tonight. My first guest tonight is a filmmaker. His name is Peter Rogers, and he asks, what is God? Are you frustrated with religious turmoil, fanaticism, and fundamentalism? Filmmaker Peter Rogers set out on a global quest to understand why the concept of God has become so politicized. In his stunningly beautiful documentary film, Oh My God, rabbis, Christian fundamentalists, Catholic priests, Buddhists, lamas, Hindus, swamis, Zen masters, Muslim radicals, shamans, and ordinary people across the globe share their unique perspectives and understanding of God, along with several celebrities including Hugh Jackman, Seal, Ringo Starr, Sir Bob Geldof, His Royal Highness Princess Michael of Kent, David Copperfield, Dr. John F. DeMartini, and Jack Thompson. The film debuts national this November, premiering at the Newark Theater in Los Angeles on November the 13th. And joining me this hour is Peter Rogers. And Peter, welcome to the X Zone.
Oh, well, thank you for inviting me, Rob.
I have to ask you, Peter, what is God?
You know, everybody asks me that question. I don't think I've really found the answer to that, but by asking questions, we might get closer to what other people think. And but you know what? Everybody does ask me that, so I guess the quickest answer I could give you is glue.
Glue?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, glue. Glue. The thing that binds us together.
Ah.
Glue. Glue.
You know,
I think that's a word, glue, you know. I mean, I think it works.
I look at God as being the universal life force that is in each and every one of us. And this is just my belief, but I you know, my belief is that God is the same in many religious philosophies, except with different names, different.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Different belief practices, different rituals, and do you think that in the years to come, Peter, that the world will unite as one, celebrating one God?
No, I really don't. I think it's so convoluted. I think what I found is that there is a wonderful humanity around the world that everybody shares. And as you say, I couldn't agree with you more, by the way, Rob, is that all the prophets of all the major religions basically say the same thing. And the whole idea of this light of consciousness, which could be construed as glue, is very prevalent. But will we unite under one consciousness and all agree and everything? I don't think so. I don't think it's happened in history, and I don't think it'll happen again, unless there's some kind of alien common enemy that comes down from somewhere. And it's funny how common enemies always unite people. Maybe that might happen, but I really don't see it, because so many people have a personal idea of what they think, and there's so much conflict of what that personal feeling to them is to somebody else, and round we go.
All right, please stand by, Peter. You and I have to take a 2-minute commercial break. We'll be right back. Exonation, Peter Rogers, our very special guest, www.omgmovie.com. My name is Rob McConnell, and this is The X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard, Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern, right here on the Talkstar Radio Network. Peter Roger and I will be back on the other side of this 2-minute break. Whatever you do, don't go away. Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. And welcome back, everyone. Peter Rogers, our special guest. His website is www.omgmovie.com. And Peter, what was your inspiration for making Oh My God?
Absolute frustration, Rob. I mean, basically, I call it the my God is greater than your God syndrome, which seems to be permeating this world. And I find it actually quite childish and like a schoolyard mentality where you have grown men flying airplanes into buildings shouting God is great, where you have the leader of the free world in 2003 who said to the BBC, I invaded Iraq because God told me to, where you have young women and young men blowing themselves up and innocent others to buy themselves a place into heaven. And I thought this is absolutely ridiculous. In an age of communication and a small world because of technology and internet and telephones and television and whatever else, people are still having these very bigoted ideas. So I decided to go around the world and ask people what is God and what it means to them, in the hopes perhaps of learning something.
Peter, since most of us personalize God in some form or other, why did you ask what is God versus who is God?
Because I wanted to be as objective as possible. If you say who is God, you're putting God in man's image because you're treating God as a being. And I wanted to treat God as an entity, as an idea, so that we could get as far away from what our preconceptions of God are. So when I ask a question, what is God, it kind of shocks people to a degree because it's like coming from the outside in rather than the inside out, and hopefully what you want to do is hear what people really feel. So the objective question makes them really search themselves and come out with something which is probably close to the honest shock answer of what that ASG means to them. So that's why I chose what instead of who.
Peter Rogers, our very special guest this hour. www.omgmovie.com is his website. And Peter, I understand you encountered some difficulties when you first set out to make this film and almost gave up.
Yeah, well, I was really challenged, actually, Rob. What happened is the day I decided to go make the film, having spent a long time putting together camera equipment and all sorts of notes, etc., computers, blah, 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 I went to the airport at LAX, and that was the very day that the Scotland Yard guide thwarted the terrorist attack on airplanes. You know why you can't have liquids and bottles these days? Yeah. That was the day, the very day I started trying to go off and make this film. And so I arrived at the airport, and what happens is when you're making a film, and I've shot in over 40 countries around the world, the first thing you do as a filmmaker is you take your camera, your important stuff, the lenses, the stock, your cell phone, your computer, everything that you need to get by with in case it goes missing. So you take that on board as hand luggage. Well, that day was the first day in aviation history that hand luggage was banned. So I had to check everything in, and I was going to Tangier in Morocco, and when I arrived, it never came out on the conveyor belt.
Oh, no.
And I thought, what? And I never saw it again. And I thought, I was stuck there without a toothbrush, without my computer, without anything, $150,000 worth of camera equipment. And I really did question myself. I was going, hello, I'm making a film about what people think God is. Is somebody trying to tell me something? And then I realized that perhaps they were, or it is, or the universe is, or I was, or whoever this entity is was, or blah, blah. That was the question. And so instead of giving up, I decided to start again. So I got the insurance money for it, which took a long time, reprogrammed the cameras. It took 2 months to restart, and then I actually went off on the journey again, not by airplane this time, but actually on a cross-country trip across the United States, because I was a little bit wary of losing the equipment again. And then I hit a sequence of events which was incredible. Had I started the film 2 months earlier, actually, I would have been out of sync. So what was once negative became a positive, and then it became a role.
Did you set out with a goal in mind, Peter?
Yeah, I wanted to discover, I did actually. I wanted to try and find some way to make people understand about other cultures, to be quite honest. And I think that there's so much bigotry in the world, and people are polarized, and especially by the news, and when good news is no news. I mean, when do you hear about nice things on the news? I mean, you only hear about
Rarely.
people blowing people up and all that sort of stuff, right? I wanted to make a film that really enlightened people to other cultures and other religions and other belief systems in the hope that it might unite us and actually promote some kind of tolerance in a world that seemed to be so divided. And that's really the big motivating factor that pushed me out to go and make the film.
Well, Peter, unfortunately, the main credo in mainstream media is if it don't bleed, it don't lead. And if it don't lead, it don't sell newspapers. And if you don't sell newspapers, well, you don't have a newspaper business. That is a sign of today's society. However, with what you went through, losing the camera equipment and so on, it sounds like it was a bit of divine intervention. And did you ever discover what that reason was?
I wouldn't use the words divine intervention because I want to be still, I want to maintain a place of complete objectivity.
All right.
I think a lot of people could read into it that it was that. I mean, it was a fact, and the fact was I lost the camera equipment. What I do believe is that because I hit the sink of everything working out for me, and I wouldn't if I hadn't lost it, that it does make you question the fact that maybe there is something, universally conscious that is binding us all together. And really, you have to understand, I am coming from a point of view of being as objective as possible, as an agnostic, but a spiritual person at the same time, because otherwise, how would I have the energy to be talking with you today? I mean, I'm not denying the presence of something that is ultimately creative and makes us exist. But, I mean, is that because I lost the camera equipment and it made it? Well, I'd like to think so, actually. I mean, I had so many challenges on this film. That was just the first one. I mean, there were a lot. I mean, major, major problems. It really, there was an upheaval for my life for 3 years. And getting over those challenges made me grow up as a human being, and I really cherish the fact that I went through those experiences.
Any spiritual insights from your journey, Peter?
Yeah, human beings are great. Humanity is fantastic.
I agree.
It is unfortunately those who seize the power of the entity that goes by the name of God can create and start manipulating people for their own nefarious agendas, that we get problems in the world. I mean, let's jump to it. Let's take Islamic fundamentalism, fanaticism, and terrorism, for example. Muslims are hijacked by a group of small-minded individuals, and it is not representative of what most of those individuals are doing. Likewise, other religious groups are hijacked by some loud-mouthed, ignorant bigots amongst their party clan. And at the end of the day, what I found is that there is a wonderful sense of humanity on the ground level. We basically, if we're lucky enough, have 2 eyes, 2 arms, 2 legs. And we are very common. We're very, very alike. And the thing is that we're so conditioned by fear. And I put it like this. We're like primitive little organisms. I almost said the wrong word there. We're primitive little... maybe, but anyway, let's not go down that road.
That's a different show. That's a different movie.
That's probably the sequel. Whoa, Freudian slip or what?
Did Freud really wear a slip?
We
digress.
We're primitive little organisms on a big rock in a scary vacuum, driven by fear, desperately trying to hold on to something. What I learned from making this film is that you can hold on to whatever you want, and you don't have to push anybody else away.
Exo Nation, my very special guest this hour is Peter Roger, and we're talking about Oh My God, the movie, and it's an epic documentary. Website, www.omgmovie.com. Peter, throughout your entire project, did you encounter any danger in any of the areas where you went to film your documentary and to speak to certain people who may not have been very happy to see you with a camera asking them very specific questions about their religion?
Yeah, I did. Absolutely, I did. But I didn't really notice it. And I think, there's this amazing sense of insecurity or security, whatever you like to call it, by being behind a camera lens. You feel protected somehow. It's called photojournalist syndrome, I think. My father was a photojournalist, and he certainly talked about it. So it does put you into a full sense of security, that you feel that you're invulnerable and that you are kind of protected by something that doesn't really exist at all. So a naivety also sort of comes into play. I mean, I'll give you examples. I was with KPS Gill, who is a very eminent police officer in India and is responsible for eradicating a lot of terrorism. And he was taking me around with a motorcade in bulletproof cars during the filming, and 35 commandos. And we had to change direction on our way to the Punjab, and we had to make a detour of 200 miles or so. And I never really found out why until actually a couple of months ago, when Chandy Duke Hefner, who was also with us, explained to us that there was an assassination attempt on him, and there was a plot to blow up our whole entire motorcade. Wow. And there were IEDs on the side of the road, and his intelligence had found it out, and that's why we were diverted. I didn't know, so I didn't feel I was in danger, but obviously I was. Same thing happened in Kashmir, during the militants. Same thing happened sometimes in Israel and the Palestinian territories. But I didn't feel it at the time at all.
Peter, stand by. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Peter Rogers, our very special guest. He is a filmmaker. We're talking about the new star-studded epic documentary, Oh My God, www.omgmovie.com. This is the X Zone. And on Talkstar, if you'd like to give us a call, 1-877-528-8255. That's toll free. My email address, xzone@talkstarradio.com. On MSN Messenger, talkstarradio@hotmail.com. And our websites, www.xzoneradio.com and xzonetv.com. Peter, Roger, and I return on the other side of the news as we continue right here on Talkstar.
Are you or is someone you know struggling with addictions, depression, anxiety, relationships, low self-esteem, lack of confidence, grief, success, and prosperity? Do you know that your subconscious belief plays a big role in the outcome of your hard work? We can help you permanently change the beliefs that may be the reason for your struggles and failures. We care about getting you the return on your investment and the results you are looking for. We can help you be free of the limitations of your past and in realizing your highest potential. We work with people by phone and Skype. For more information, visit us at www.ritasoman.com. That's www.ritasoman.com.
Have you exhausted all traditional means of healing without success? Are you experiencing communications through ghosts, angels, or even extraterrestrials and want to validate these experiences? Or would you simply like to speak with someone who can help you find your life's purpose? I'm Dr. Joseph Mara, and I'm offering my services to humanity at this time through consultations. These consultations include angel card readings, guided meditations, life coaching, and energy healing. If you desire clarity of what may appear to be unexplainable phenomenon, then contact me through my website at aguidinglight, spelled LITE.com, to schedule your consultation today. Until then, I offer you love, light, and laughter.
And welcome back to the X Zone, 1-877-528-8255, toll free throughout the U.S., Canada, Alaska, and Hawaii. My email address is xzone@talkstarradio.com. On MSN Messenger, talkstarradio@hotmail.com. And our websites, www.xzoneradio.com and xzonetv.com. Today is Tuesday, November the 3rd, and on this date in history, in 1782, Britain officially recognized the United States and won $10,000 on the old What's My Line show. I was just kidding about the winning. Apparently it was less than that. In 1839, the first Opium War between China and Britain erupted. On this date in 1917, first-class postage in the United States went up to a whopping 3 whole cents. On this date in 1952, Charles Birdseye introduced frozen peas. On this very first coast-to-coast color TV broadcast took place way back in 1953. And on this date in 1956, The Wizard of Oz was shown on TV for the very first time. If you're celebrating your birthday today, from everyone here at the X Zone Radio Show and the Talkstar Radio Network and all our affiliates across Canada, the United States, Central America, South America, the Pacific Rim, the Caribbean, 24 Asian countries, and Europe, a very happy birthday to you. You're celebrating your birthday with Godzilla. That's right, he's 55 today. Dennis Miller celebrates his 56th birthday today. Kathy Kinney. Mimi from the old Drew Carey Show turns 56. Comedian Roseanne Barr turns 57. Ken Berry, who you may remember from F Troop, turns 76 today. Also, Exonation today is National Housewives Day and National Sandwich Day. And celebrity sandwiches include the Bill Gates, Just Bread, and lots of bread. The Jennifer Lopez stuffed rump roast with very little dressing. How about the Britney Spears sandwich, spoiled ham that was once on a roll? The Annie Heechee, tuna or salami, depending on the mood. And the Gary Coleman shrimp boy. 1-877-528-8255 is toll-free. My very special guest this hour is Peter Rogers, and he asked the question in his documentary. It's an epic documentary. What is God? The name of the documentary, Oh My God. The website is www.omgmovie.com. Peter, again, thank you very much for joining us tonight here on the X Zone. And I've got a funny feeling, and believe me, I'm no psychic, but I really believe that the timing could not be better for Oh My God. I really believe.
I hope you're right. I really hope you're right, Rob, and I have the same feeling, I have to say.
People want answers. We're not sheep anymore. We need the answers that have been kept from us for so many thousands of years, all in the name of God. You know, and we have to stop having all the different wars that we have had, and in the name of God, in the name of religion, in the name of different philosophies. We have to get together, and I really believe, after reading the information that your publicist was kind enough to send me, that the timing is perfect, the timing is right, and people will see that we're all the same. We all have the same questions. We all look for the same answers. And basically, and please correct me if I'm wrong, we all believe in a God.
Well, I don't think a lot of people do. I don't think all of us believe in a God, and statistically, I think it's about 12% of the United States that don't, which is a minority. But it really depends on what is God. I think, you're really right. I think we're very, very united, and we're all in this together, and human beings are fabulously complex. Now, let me expand on that. Look what happens when a child is born, right?
Yes.
Comes out of the womb, it sees this amazing world in front of you, in front of it. And as it becomes a toddler, it doesn't differentiate in the schoolyard between somebody who's black or yellow or female or disabled or something. There's just a complete and utter acceptance. So I think that when we come out into the world, we're kind of pure that way. And if you really want to see this entity that goes by the name of God, look into a young child's eye, because there it is. It really is very, very evident in children. I think what happens is that as we grow up, fear comes into play. Other people manipulate us, and daddy and mummy tell us what to do, whatever their agenda is, and they're worried about us, and sometimes that's misconstrued, and then you get the schools, and you get the religious leaders, and you get this and that, and then suddenly you have to belong to a clan, a box, or something, and then your box is better than somebody else's box, and you want to aspire to be something else, and round we go, and we get really, really lost, and then we have to have something to hold on to, and that's when sometimes the real manipulators can get hold of you and spin you into areas which are probably not as not quite as kind or as generous or whatever as the prophets of some of those religions are preaching. So what I'm trying to do with this film is to try and see how we're so much the same. And I agree with you. Whether or not there's a God is up to an individual to come to a conclusion to. Yeah. And it's very, very personal. And if you are religious, it's all in there. It's all in those wonderful books of what your religion worships. And I think it's very simple. I think life is simple, and I think men complicate it.
Oh, you know what? I have said that so many times, that if it's too simple, we have to complicate it, because we as humans cannot accept the fact that life is simple. It's very simple.
Oh, it is. I think it's totally simple. We're born, we live, and we die.
Going, and gone. That's right. Tell me, how are you able to capture insights from Muslim extremists? That must have been a challenge.
It was a real challenge. It took me a year to try and find one, and I failed. Finally, one found me. So basically, there's a difference between the militants and all that, and the terrorists and stuff, and then those who have ideas, ideologies, and ways of thinking which are completely and utterly fanatic and, verging on evil. Basically, what happened is I tried to get through various groups, etc., people to talk on camera, and they wouldn't. Why would they? They don't want to actually say what they think in front of a camera and give themselves an identity. And then I was in an undisclosed location, and I was shooting inside a mosque. And I came out of the mosque with a camera, and a gentleman came up to me and he said, who are you? And I said, my name's Peter. And he says, are you a Muslim? And I said, no, I'm not a Muslim. And he said, well, then what are you doing in the mosque? And I said, I'm making a film. And he said, well, you're not allowed to be in the mosque. And I said, is that because I'm making a film or because I'm not a Muslim? And he said, because you're not a Muslim. And I said, would you like to talk about this on camera? And he said, yeah, I would. I'd really like to. So I cancelled my afternoon and spent 4.5 hours with him. And he was very, very fanatic. And then he started quoting from the Quran, but he misinterpreted it. And this is a big problem that is happening in the world today, where you have people who think they're right, misinterpret things which mean completely the opposite of what they believe them to mean. And so there's a segment in the film where I put that right, and I go to an Islamic scholar and an imam, Jihad Turk, and he takes the words of the fanatic, the surah from the Quran, and actually translates it the way it should sound. And it means kind of the opposite of what the fanatic said it was. And this is a big problem. People are ill-educated, they're seized by others who have nefarious agendas, and they're manipulated to do things and say things and be things that really have nothing to do with the religions that they pertain to belong to. And onwards and upwards. Again, militants in Kashmir, the guys who are actually going off, and you hear about it in SWAT in places, who are work for the Taliban, and they're just very ignorant, poor farmers. And what happens is that they're struggling to pay and feed their family and put their kids through school, and then suddenly these bands and groups of people come along with cool headbands and say, look, I'll pay for your family, you come and work for me, and at the same time you'll buy yourself a place into heaven. And they're simple, ill-educated people, and that's what they do. So there are a lot of problems in the world, and a lot of them are political. They're not from the wonderful humans that most of us are. And what I'm trying to do with the film is to try and enlighten all of us, again, to say that we are really good as a human race. Human beings are fundamentally kind and nice as we were when we were children. Let's go back to that state and treat people the way we like to be treated.
What moved you or surprised you the most on your filmmaking journey, Peter?
A cancer hospital in Orange County was, funnily enough, close to home. I live in LA. And I went there because the very reasons I spoke before about talking to children. How better to find a place where God really exists, to use the word God, than the child's eyes that is perhaps facing death. So I went into the cancer hospital and filmed a child who is just about to finish her chemotherapy. And I filmed a child who was just diagnosed with leukemia. And I have to tell you, it's a harrowing part of the film, but the answers that come out of these children's mouths is unbelievable. It's surprising and it moved me the most. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You have to go and see the film for that. It's worth it because, what Christian Hernandez says in that film really affected me, moved me, and I think moves a lot of people. You hear it from the horse's mouth, and if it exists, and a lot of people believe it does, then that's where it is.
Exonation, we're talking about a star-studded, epic documentary entitled Oh My God. And it opens in select theaters nationwide starting November 13th. With me is the filmmaker of this great film, Peter Rogers. To find out more about the film, www.omgmovie.com. That's www.omgmovie.com. Peter, did you meet anyone who had a powerful spiritual impact on you?
Yeah, I did actually. A guy called Kanji Tanaka. He was a Zen master in a wonderful temple in Kyoto. When I walked in, it was like one of those, it's like out of a movie, first of all. It was built hundreds of years ago, and it was incredible. And there was an amazing sense of peace and calm. You had one of those Zen gardens, and all these sort of sliding doors that open out onto it, and sounds of frogs and stuff. And there was an immediate sense of incredible peace. And he invited us in for tea, and I sat across him, and I was under a lot of pressure at that time, and I have to tell you, I completely choked up. It was just like being there was incredible. And the sense of spirituality was huge. And he said something to me, and it's in the film. He says, basically, we're already in paradise. We're already being saved because we've earned our place here, and it's our social responsibility to recognize that fact. Now, for a lot of people on Earth, it's hell. But that's one of the challenges. If we try to look at it as paradise and not as hell, then we're doing the right thing. But we have nothing to worry about because we're already saved. So don't live your life trying to buy yourself for a possible maybe, but really give respect to now and breathe in and feel the air that fills your lungs and treat people with respect and do all the codes of practice that all the religions talk about, but really enjoy your day. And that was really eye-opening. I know a lot of wealthy people who live in hell. I know an awful lot of very poor people that, are living in paradise because they're really, really happy. So it doesn't have to do with material things. And I asked them about disease. I said, what about somebody who has cancer? What about somebody who's disabled, who can't get up and walk and remembers walking around and running and playing football and stuff? Isn't it hell for them? And he said it's a point of mind. And what he does is he actually brings people in and teaches this ideology to them so that they can cope with their disabilities and look at their hell as heaven. And for me, it was a really eye-opening experience.
How are you able to capture so many personal insights about God and religion from so many notable celebrities? Ringo Starr, just to name one, the Dalai Lama.
Dalai Lama actually was not in the film, but his equivalent from Japan was actually, who is like the Dalai Lama of Japan. His name is Honkyo Takito. But celebrities, a lot of them came to me, funnily enough, through friends. My daughter, Georgia, is a Beatles fan. I remember I was in my office and my cell phone was upstairs. Mm-hmm. It went off and she caught it and she came over to me holding it sort of arm's length, white in the face, and she said, "Daddy, it's Ringo Starr." And I thought, So I took the phone and I went, "Oh, hi, Ringo." And he goes, "Oh, hello, Peter. Friend Doris was, she's a friend of ours said you're making a film about good people to come over and film me at the house this afternoon." So I said, "I would absolutely love to." And Ringo, I do apologize if you're listening. That's a terrible mimic of your accent.
I thought it was perfect.
I was a little too, but I'm not very good at doing it. So he said, "Come over and talk. I'll talk to you about it on camera if you want." So I did, and I took Georgia, and and we filmed him. He's absolutely amazing in the film, and this is because a mutual friend told him about it, and he had the heart and the kindness and the generosity to share in it, and help me out with the film because he's a famous name. And you know what? I need people, anchor points through this film, because it's about a very serious subject, people that the audience can recognize to take us through it, because it's a heavy subject. And when we see people that we know and we've heard music of and seen in the news and read about for a whole generation, it really helps the film along. And he just, and people criticize me, say, "Well, what's Ringo doing in your film? What's that going to do about that?" Well, you should hear what he has to say about God, and then you'll understand why he's in the film. And the same was with others. I pursued others, and a lot I was turned down, not because they didn't want to do it per se, but because our schedules didn't meet or whatever.
Back in Victorian England, a famous theologian posed a perplexing riddle. Why are the two top personalities in the Bible tagged with the numbers 7 and 11? Academics agree the answer is found in the stunning discovery of a hitherto secret Bible structure explained in a new book called The Genesis Grid. The discovery is so simple that preschool children could illustrate it. Certain claims are hugely controversial and may offend some, but at the X Zone, we've studied this awesome new book and agree with one expert, and I quote, "These discoveries appear to be beyond coincidence." So who or what hid this wonderful pattern in the Bible, and what might they do next? Find out more, X Zone Nation, and read reviews on www.genesisgrid.co.uk. That's www.genesisgrid.co.uk.
There comes a time when we heed a certain call, when the world must come together as one. There are people dying. Oh, when it's time to lend a hand to life, the greatest gift of all. We can't go on pretending day by day that someone somewhere will soon make a change. We all a part of God's great big family, and the truth, you know, love is all we need. We are the world. We are the children. We are the ones who make it right.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone on Talkstar. My very special guest this hour is filmmaker Peter Roger, and he is the gentleman behind a new star-studded epic documentary entitled Oh My God. Peter is going to be joining us next week because there's no way that we can give this wonderful film justice in just 1 hour. First of all, Peter, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight, and I'd also like to thank Jill Mangino at Circle 3 Media for helping make this interview possible.
Oh, it's such a pleasure being here. I'm really enjoying this. It's great.
Peter, we have about a minute and a half left. What would you like to leave our listeners with? I mean, besides the message that we want as many of the people that are listening to us around the world tonight to put a circle around November the 13th and see this film. Just from talking to you, reading the material that we were sent, I believe that this film is going to touch a lot of hearts and change a lot of lives.
Well, thank you. You know what I like? I like viewers to be ambassadors to the discussion the film creates. I like them to really search what they feel in their heart and understand what other people think about this whole aspect of God. I'd like them to come away exhilarated, and I'd like them to go on a big journey with me. I'd like them, because it's 23 different countries, and it's not very often that you can get around the world so quickly. And so I just want to promote the idea that people can see other people, other worlds, other cultures, and realize how much we are united and not divided. And also argue about it a little bit. I mean, so many people have their own opinions. The more you talk, the more communication you have, the more discussions it can create, the better the world's going to be, because that's what we have to do as human beings, is to accept, and also be true to ourselves and understand who we are, and that we're probably quite similar to the guy that we thought was against us.
Peter, again, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I look forward to continuing our conversation next week. And in my heart of hearts, I truly believe that your film is going to be a smash, and that, like I said before, hearts are going to be touched and people are going to be changed. Thank you very much for joining us, Peter.
You.
www.genesisgrid.co.uk.
omgmovie.com. My guest this hour has been Peter Roger. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break and the news at 6.5 minutes past as the X Zone continues live and around the world right here on Talkstar.